Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am here with Ernie Severson. He's an awesome reverse mortgage loan officer who has some really fun stories to share with us today. So, Ernie, I'll let you do the honors if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and we'll go from there.
Like Christina said, I'm Ernie Severson. I work with Summerlin Financial here in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Uh, just really enjoy the reverse mortgage business, like helping people, and yeah, that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks for being on with us today, Ernie, and taking your time out to do this.
No problem. Appreciate you asking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you entertain me so much. So, to get started, I'd love to just ask if you'd share a couple of your stories that I've just cracked up at. The first one I love was you were in a bar and you ran across someone who wanted a reverse mortgage, right?
I did. I have shirts that I wear that say "Ask me about reverse mortgage" on the back, and my wife had a work function that we ended up going to a pool hall to meet some of her friends, and uh, I forgot to change my shirt before we left, and I mentioned it out in the parking lot, and she said, "Well, maybe you'll meet somebody." And so we're sitting there, throughout the night, and a couple of hours go by, and a guy walks up and puts his hand on my back and says, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I thought, "Uh-oh." Don't really hang out in the bars too much. So he says, "I need a reverse mortgage." And then it dawned on me why he wanted to talk to me. I forgot I had the shirt on. So we actually hooked up, got him some cards, and had an appointment later on that week. So it worked out real well.
That is so funny. I could see like the little bit of shock, like, why do you need to talk to me?
Exactly. Why exactly are you touching me?
Yeah.
So it was comical. My wife laughed about it.
Oh, that's great. So I love that you wear shirts like that out. So have you had any other encounters where that shirt has sparked a conversation?
It does. I get a lot of that, and there's some I forget about as far as that goes, but I do. I run into people all over the place, and we have some conversations. It works out well.
Do you ever get people who have a negative response to it?
Not to my shirts. I do a lot of swap meets. I, do informational booth at the swap meet. And every once in a while, you get people that come by and say, "Oh, I'd never do that," and but then you get the ones that walk by and they kind of wink and say, "That's the best thing I've ever done." So it's everyone has their own opinion, and the ones that I enjoy are the ones that will actually stand around and give it to me, so we can talk about feelings and what information they have.
Yeah. Well, and most people who have some sort of negative idea, you and I know, they just don't really understand most of the time.
Absolutely.
Sometimes somebody has some experience, but for the most part.
And you can't change everyone's mind. But the big thing is to have a conversation and not an argument. So, some people, they want to think what they want to think, and they, they get to do that when they walk away if that's what they're looking for. So,
Right, right. If they don't stand around and go, huh, why would you say that? And they're not asking the questions, they'll never know. So they keep their
absolutely.
opinion.
Correct.
On that note, have you had the experience where somebody had a negative opinion and then they got education from you? You talked about how it could work for them, and then they went, "Oh, that's actually not so bad. Maybe I want one."
Abs- Absolutely. That's happened several times throughout, the time I've been doing this. It's funny to see the light come on when they're sitting there across from you with their arms crossed, and you just start talking about it, and it's usually a spouse that's heard bad things about it, and uh, once you start sparking the interest, they start leaning forward, they start kind of perking up to what you're saying, and then they start asking questions, and you start to disarm them. You see the smile start to come out, and then wow, this isn't what I thought it was. And I think the most important thing is acknowledging the fact that they're correct in their assumption. There were things that were bad in the product back before, and people have had bad experiences, and some of them it's just because that they've heard bad things and they have zero experience. So getting them to, start smiling and asking questions and actually see the value in the product is pretty, it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, absolutely life changing for most of your clients, I've heard.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So, what's one client story that you have that you just were floored with the change in their life that you were able to have?
My favorite story, it was actually the parents of one of my friends that had basically set their whole nest egg up in one basket. And it was basically equities where they invest all your money in rental properties. And they were doing fine living out their retired life until COVID hit. And all of the properties that they were invested in were in California when they, eliminated all the rent payments for, 2, 3 years, and their income completely stopped. So they went from, doing well through their retirement, the way they had set it up to be and planned for it, to only living off of Social Security. And I was able to come in, address their situation, set them up in a heck 'em with, the 10-year payment so that they had security and were able to actually breathe again. The the husband did a lot of tinkering and liked to work in the garage and welding and different things like that. And he had pretty much had to stop what he was doing. And the wife she liked to shop, and that was kind of her getaway. And, they had really had to tighten their belt for so long. And luckily I had run into their kids and told them what I did. And we, they came and said, we need to sit down and talk. So I sat down and I gave them my presentation, explained the whole product, and they really were receptive to it. So then they got with their parents and did the same thing. And it was really a home run as far as I was concerned, to be able to hand them back their retirement and their, just the security and the comfort. And, and then obviously they still need to move forward on figuring out what's going on with their entire, retirement that they had before. But at this point, we were able to, get the equity out of their house with a 10-year payment, pay off all the credit cards they'd been racking up, and really just, get them back to being able to breathe again. That was a great feeling.
Wow, no kidding. Who could have foreseen that rental properties would suddenly just stop producing income?
Absolutely. I mean, just completely stopped. Like,
Oh, and they still have expenses, of course.
absolutely.
Oh, wow. Do you know if they ended up being able to keep those rentals till they started paying again, or did they have to
So
get rid of
the
them?
way that it worked is it was through an equities company. So they didn't actually own the houses. They just had a stake
Oh,
in the houses. So to this point, they've still not been able to draw any money out of the program. So
wow. Thank goodness
yeah,
for the reverse mortgage.
absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely.
For anyone who doesn't know, what is a 10-year payment?
It's a payment that lasts throughout the time that you're able to live in the house. So as long as you can make your insurance and your tax payments and keep your end of the bargain, you're paid throughout the time that you live in the house, whether or not you burn through all the equity, or no matter what happens to the housing prices, that is a guaranteed payment until you are no longer able to stay in the house. So very,
Yeah.
very secure program.
That's a good way to say it. When people explain the 10-year payment, they don't often include that part that you just said. It doesn't matter what the value of the house does. Those
Correct.
payments continue.
Absolutely. And you can't ask for more insecurity than that. And then with the protections for the heirs and everything else, again, it's such a peace of mind to know that your parents are taken care of no matter what, as long as they can stay in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. All right, so I've got to ask, what is one myth that you want to disband that people think about reverse mortgages?
Mostly the fact that the bank takes your house. It's the simplest, easiest go-to. The bank does not take title to your house. And I try to, the way that I explain it is the bank doesn't want your house. The bank, this is a federally insured loan. No matter what happens, the bank is going to be made whole. So they can either, no matter what happens, if the value all goes away, they still get their money back. And the if they don't and they have to take your house, that's just more steps that they have to deal with. They have to go through making sure it's sellable, making sure that they've evicted who's in the house, and it's just an enormous pain for them. So this is a for a bank, this is a perfect product because they're going to get their money. And when I get asked why do they do it, I said it's interest payments, and they're going to get their interest payments. It's just there's almost no risk for the bank in these loans. So
Well,
that's
the risk would be foreclosure, right? If
absolutely that's the for them the worst thing that can happen to them is having to foreclose on the house. It's just it's easier the other way. And so the
yeah,
longer you know if they can keep you in the house and then until you pass, then they're happy to let the heirs take over and either sell the house or buy the house back, and they're just they get made whole pretty
yeah.
easy.
So let's talk about that. Heirs do have some options here. So people have, I've heard misconceptions that, oh, the bank takes all the equity. Oh, there's nothing left. In your experience, your understanding, how does that actually work for heirs?
So it's just like having a regular mortgage. That's what I tell people. Whatever the balance is left on the mortgage, the heirs are able to take the house, sell the house, they pay off the mortgage, and whatever's left belongs to them. And to take it a step further, there's the 95% rule. So let's say that you've lived long enough or that the market has done something crazy and you owe more on the house than it's worth. This is mom's house. We grew up there. We really wanted to keep it. So the heirs have the ability to purchase the house for 95% of appraised value or what's owed on it, whichever is less. So if you owe more than what the house is worth, they can still come in and buy it for 95% of what the appraised value is. So, and again, that's where the FHA insurance comes in. That pays the bank, makes them whole, everybody's happy. So it's this is what drew me to the product, is just the protections that were put in place for the seniors and for their heirs after the seniors pass.
Totally. Absolutely. And it's such a little known thing and people don't talk about it partially because it's so uncommon, right? We didn't see that happen. We don't see that happen unless somebody lives
Right.
to be 120 or the market crashes like 2008. That provision actually was used by some people. And my gosh, the amount of debt forgiven that the heirs don't have to pay, they don't take it out of the estate. That's one thing I'm going to grandstand for a second. That mortgage
Absolutely.
insurance, it protects so that the only thing they look to is the house. If they have $1 million in other assets, they're not looking to that.
Correct.
Love that. I just,
That's huge.
yeah, absolutely
Huge.
huge.
These are the things that, you know, the naysayers, that's what perks them up, is to find out that their kids are going to be okay. And that's really the biggest objection that I see is, you know, we've always wanted to leave the house to the kids, and you will. And that's the intent. So it's just a matter of structuring the loan to fit the needs that you're looking for as a family, as a parent, and what you want to do, moving forward.
And that's something in your process you shared with me before that you really get the entire plan because people say they want to leave the house to the kids, but when there's multiple kids, a lot of the time they're just asking for leaving the kids something, right? And they want to leave the
Absolutely.
kids equity.
Absolutely. And it's, when I deal with clients, it is a full circle. I want to know what their plans are. I want to know what they're trying to do in their retirement. I want to know if there's kids they want to help, if there's, or if they don't even have heirs and they just want to leave it to the Humane Society. It's just, it's a matter of finding out what their wishes are and how to best make the wishes come true as far as what they're looking for. And that's, it's important. You know, I am comfortable with the product, but I still want to sleep at night. I want to make sure that I've done the best job for my clients that
I love that. I've actually had a couple of people who did leave their house to the Humane Society specifically.
I can.
And then they had it all in the trust, and then they got older and realized, well, I need some of that money. And so we did the reverse, and then the Humane Society will still get whatever's left.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. Okay, so another question for you. What's your favorite structure? You know, you can get so creative in these reverse mortgages. What's one of the cool ways you've seen it done?
You know, I like the tenure with the line of credit, just because if everyone's like me saving money, it's a lot easier for me to make extra money than it is to save money, because if it's there, I'm going to spend it. And you know, there's emergencies that come up. There's different things that might happen. You know, your car needs tires, or your, you know, a transmission goes out, something that's not expected. And to set up a line of credit along with a 10-year, you know, if they don't need a certain amount of money, and we can set up a 10-year that works for them, and also set up an additional line of credit that's sitting there, it's that whole emergency fund thing. And you know, I'm big on talking to them about all the other different things. I try to help them save money on their homeowners. I try to, you know, talk to them about maybe getting into a home warranty, different things like that, where they're protected. You know, this is your retirement. You need to protect yourself as much as you possibly can within your means. But you know, adding an extra layer of that whole emergency fund with the line of credit is just huge.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right. So what's one more thing about the reverse mortgage that you wish everybody knew?
Wow. Uh, there's just so many moving parts, and you know, you get those people that say, "Can you send me a brochure?" I just say no. There's
I get that
no,
too from
yeah,
loan officers. Can you send me a flyer? I'm like,
yeah,
why?
no, I can't, because you're doing it no justice. There's the whole gamut, everywhere from, you know, somebody that I've helped that's, you know, they're still making a house payment and they're down to $30 after they've paid all their bills. You know, to help somebody like that eliminate their house payment, you know, their principal and interest payment, and again, be able to breathe. You know, they may not have the big 10-year payment. They may not have any payments coming at all, other than just getting rid of that mortgage. And so knowing that the product can do that, and everywhere from that to hedging your social security to hedging your 401k, there's so many different ways that the product can be used by different people and different places in their life. That's the big thing, is no, I can't give you a flyer. I can sit down, I can give you my time, I can figure out how this will best suit you. That's what I can do for you. But yeah, it just doesn't happen in a flyer.
Yeah. Well, and because the numbers change too, and that's one thing I see, that people get so tied to what they could do at one point in time,
Yeah.
or the flyer information. You know, I had this one person just telling me what the percentages he could borrow were. And I'm like,
Yes.
when did you get that information? Because that's not today.
No, and it is. That's the other thing to remember is, you know, just like regular mortgages, these things change daily. They change programs. You know, what you knew about a reverse mortgage 2 years ago could be completely different. And this is, you know, this is the industry that we're in. So you really, and that's what I try to get across to people is any loan officer can write a reverse mortgage for you. Not any loan officer knows what's best for you or even knows what's possible right now. So that's, if I could leave anyone with anything is find somebody that knows reverse mortgages inside and out and the current product because it's huge. You can call somebody and say, I need a reverse mortgage. They'll set you up with a reverse mortgage and it may be the total wrong product for you, but they gave you what you asked for. So
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
finding the right person that you want to use.
Right. I love that you bring that up because you can very easily meet today's goals at tomorrow's consequences.
Correct.
And so in your practice, I know you balance those things and you ask so thoroughly the goals, wants, and needs that you balance all of that in the package. And I think that's kind of what makes you special is that you are able to then fit that person with all the things they've asked for rather than here's a reverse. Do you want it?
Exactly. And I appreciate that. It's important to me that people are taken care of. That's why we do this in the first place.
I think that's so evident in everything you do. Okay, so the swap meets. So if somebody wants to come and meet you in person, where can they find you?
Well, right now they're getting ready to shut down. We are in Lake Havasu, so it's getting hot. So we have what's called the London Bridge Swap Meet. During the winter months, it's on Sundays, and we sit out there. And I have friends that own a coffee company. I set up across from them, so we have a lot of laughs together and meet some great people out there. Just sit there and have these conversations with them, and I was a kid growing up with my granddad. We'd go to the swap meet and do different things like that, and it's nostalgic for me. So it seemed like a good fit. It's a good way to see people and be visible. So
That's
other than
awesome.
that, I've got my website. It's erniethelonguy.com. You can get on there and there's quite a bit of really good information and you can get to me that way. It works out really nicely.
And I encourage anybody who's watching, don't just read the generic information. Let Ernie do your numbers. It's free. He really, really educational.
That's
And, that's how you learn the most too. How many people have looked at a brochure and said, "Oh, I don't know." And then look at their numbers and go, "Oh, I understand how this works now."
Yes, it can be very confusing if you don't have the right person explaining it to you. It's all gibberish.
Yeah. All right, Ernie, I appreciate your time. I have one final question for you. If you could change the American retirement, how would you change it?
I've thought about that often, and I'm going to have a little bit of a different answer than anybody else. The coulda, woulda, shouldas that I wish there was a couple of guys in my life that told me what to do when I was 20, when I was 18, and I didn't do it. The way that I would change our American retirement is financial education in high school. Learning trigonometry and all that stuff is great, but learning how to balance your checkbook and make a budget and take that 15% and put it away, you know just knowing that Social Security is not enough, knowing that you may not have a pension down the road. If you put that money away when you're young and you just forget about it, you'll be fine down the road. And that's where, so if you want to change the retirement system, start talking to your kids when they're young.
That's such an important, important factor. I love that answer. And not because it would save you from doing a reverse mortgage, in my opinion, at least, it would save you from being the desperate category,
Well,
right?
exactly. And there's so much, like I said before, you can use a reverse mortgage as part of your retirement structure. There's times when the market's down where if you continue to take what you're living off of, you start getting into your basis. Even when the market comes back, it won't come back to where you started. So if you use equity during that time in a down market, you can save your, let your retirement accounts heal. Once they do come back, you're welcome to make payments back into your reverse mortgage. You could pay the thing or just pay it off if you wanted to. So, I wouldn't suggest that. It's good to keep that line of credit to do what you just did. So, uh, it's just huge. And the best clients out there are the ones that don't need a reverse mortgage because there's no desperation. It's just something that they're using as a plan to make their life better.
Yeah. And those stories don't get enough attention because we feel like superheroes when you can take somebody who's on the desperate edge. But the reality is the clients who don't, they're not on the desperate edge, they don't need it. We're preventing them from ever getting there. And that's needed too.
Absolutely. And and the more that of those clients that we can reach that can take away the stigma to, explain to their friends, this is what I'm doing and this is why, you know, it'll change the industry really.
Yeah. And as the generations as the generations grow older, I think boomers are a little more open about, hey, this is a smart strategy than some of the previous generations have been. They just didn't talk
Absolutely.
about financials.
This is true. And that's the big thing is getting to the point where we do talk about finances is important. I'm free with my finances, the good things and the bad things, if I can help somebody learn without having to go through something, that's a win for both.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ernie, thank you so much for your time today. And everybody, thanks for watching. And if you want to get in contact with Ernie, there's going to be a link below. Just fill out the form and he'll give you a call.
Thank you very much for having me on, Christina.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ernie.
You
Bye,
bet.
everybody.
Bye bye.